Welcome, welcome to episode 14 of the Seller Club podcast. And we are so glad to be with you today. I'm Anna.
I'm Glenn.
And I'm Ken. Yo, what's up?
Thank you. I was wondering. And we're going to drop some beats right now. So fresh. So fresh.
Very fresh. I showered.
Doing?
I shaved. So I'm ready for this one.
Glenn's ready for like an interview or something.
He's like a little, kind of baby faced right now, So I'll just let some facial hair just slowly. But I really can't grow a beard or nothing, but.
Just a little shadow.
Yeah, just a little shadow. Just a little peach fuzz.
He's ready for today's topic. He's like a Professor Glenn today or something.
Okay, yeah, and I'm big time ready. What are we talking about today?
Big time ready. We're going to get into some nitty-gritty numbers about our stores, which is really cool. To me, this is cool because I've talked about this before, but I really started selling on eBay because of the Scavenger Life podcast, and they, every week for like a decade, basically released a podcast episode where they talked about their numbers for the week, and just consistently hearing over time, different metrics from their store was really illuminating to me. Like, wow, you can actually do this as a real business, as a full-time income. So, there are a lot of fellow numbers nerds out there anyway. So we're going to just talk about some of our numbers today because we all have very different businesses, but we're actually going to take a look at some of the stuff you can see like in your eBay dashboard regarding like traffic and sales data. So we're going to talk about some of those kind of numbers. We're not doing like the week-to-week thing, but we still think these are going to be some interesting numbers to dive into.
Okay, I'm not ready anymore.
You're like, I was ready.
I mean, I shaved. That's it. I took a shower.
Into our numbers.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
I think this is gonna be cool because this is one of the bottom line, right? At the end of the day, the dollars matter. Numbers won't lie. I can't, take a photo with my Lambo and y'all can assume that I bought it with my own money, right? Like, actually, I just borrowed it from Glenn. They won't know that and stuff like that. But this is gonna be, eye-opening, even for us, and for everybody that's listening. I think a challenge is really at the start of the year. I think it's important, really, like, how are we starting the year? Are we starting it strong or lower than before? And if, what are the reasons why? I think that's the biggest thing, right? If you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it.
Love
Very
that.
true. Kenny loves the numbers, the stats. The stats don't lie.
Stats don't lie. I like that.
Now, are you guys listening? Are you looking at your numbers? Are you paying attention like all the time? Are you obsessed about your numbers? Do you just check in periodically? What's your relationship to your numbers like?
So numbers, I'm checking. Well, every time I ship an item, I definitely have that marked into my spreadsheet. What is that profit on that item? How much did I spend on it? And all of that details every time I ship. So I'm not one of those people that assume I'm making money when really you're not. Because you can do that. Be like, well, I got it cheap, so I know I'm making money here.
Right.
But how much are you making? So every day it's checking the numbers on the platforms.
So you have like a clear, definite temperature on your business daily. Knowing Glenn, he logs it as soon as it sells. So we batch log. So I kind of like we do it kind of like every other day, weekly and stuff like that. But Glenn's is like as soon as it sells, he feels the sting. He'll feel like $1 million, or he'll tape that box crappy if he lost money.
Yeah. I definitely do check mine all the time too. Just it's built into my processes, just like yours, Glenn. So I can see the cost of goods. I can see what it sold for. I can see what I paid to ship it. Every time I'm shipping something, I'm entering that shipping cost too. in my own personal like set of spreadsheets. But it is interesting because I think a lot of people do not do that, right? They are a little bit like weirded out about the numbers, or they're afraid of what they're going to see. And so they just don't look at it. And then, maybe they have a general sense of how profitable they are, which may or may not be very accurate at any given time. But, by the end of the year, it's like, okay, well, what are my expenses and what was my profit, and then obviously you get the final answer when it's like tax time. But I feel like I'm on such a microscopic level with it because, that it's hard for me to have an accurate gut check about, like, if I didn't check my numbers and look at my totals every day, I would be like, I don't know how much I've made so far this month. Like, I don't know. But I actually do look at, by the transaction, and then also like the accumulating totals for the month. Like I have some of that stuff built into my own spreadsheets too. So I can't help but see it when I'm doing my work.
It's sales report, right? I mean, in any business, there's reports, right? In any industry, there's always going to be reports. And I think, for us in our industry, reselling world, right? Like, we say it all the time, buy low, sell high. Like the thrill of the hunt and stuff like that. Being mostly solo or with less people in the operation, I think it's one of the things that gets overlooked because there are other things that you actually do that's a priority as well, right? Like shipping, like listing, like buying. But I think this is the heart of the operation because, to be able to actually realize a profit, you have to know how much you made in that certain item. And you are bound to make the same mistake over and over again if you don't actually learn a lesson from that purchase or that transaction.
Yeah.
So looking at your numbers actually helps you become a better buyer. And when you're a better buyer, you're a better seller. So that's kind of like the analogy of it.
That's one of the benefits for sure of like the granular level of recording things like Glenn and I have been talking about, because if I just sold something, and then I go and see a similar thing out in the thrift store or whatever, like it's pretty fresh in my mind, like, oh yeah, I just sold one of those. And usually if it was pretty recent, I'll remember like the details and I'll be like, oh yeah, I thought that was going to sell for a lot more, or maybe I overpaid for that last time, or maybe it did sell for an okay price, but it's overpriced at this location that I'm at right now, and so I'm not going to pick it up this time. It's not, enough margin or whatever. But I'm also like, from the thrill of the hunt perspective, I love to look at every little transaction because it's so rewarding to be like, yes, I made 200 times what I paid for this, right in the moment. It's really validating and just like really fun. So
yeah, I try to add oh, exactly. And I try to add the cost of goods and the custom SKU and where it's located. So, every time you get an offer, kind of see like, how much I spend for it, where is it? And, just all the details that I could put in there for the custom SKU to know, everything about that product. But when you're buying in bulk, it is a different situation. Thrill of the hunt is always fun. And I think we're going to talk about all of that with the differences, because my store is kind of wonky right now. But how should we start this?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers do have a story to tell. Why don't we just pick, let's pick one of our metrics. Let's go maybe through our sales first, okay?
Yeah.
But we'll pick one metric, talk about what it means, why we're talking about it, and then go through each of our numbers for it.
Yeah, so I guess if you're listening to this, and then, I would encourage you to go to your eBay seller dashboard or your seller hub. So that way, if you want to follow us or you want to check this out after, all you got to do is go to your seller hub, click performance, click sales, and then sort it by this year. We're in January, so like I said, mentioned earlier, like, are we starting the year hot, or are we, cruise controlling because holiday just happened? and are we just making the adjustments right now? So if you go to your performance and then sales and you click this year, so we are actually technically comparing our performance at this very moment compared to last year, and then click generate report, and that's how you'll see the results of the percentage that we're going to be talking about this year. So Anna, you want to go first?
Sure. So this is like, just to be extra super clear, we're just talking about this year so far compared to this time last year. Same thing, last year so far to
Right.
this point in last year. So last year, the first couple weeks of January to this year, the first couple weeks of January for all of these sales numbers. So that's the only hard thing about a podcast and talking about numbers. We can't show you a spreadsheet, so we're going to try to just discuss it clearly. But the first thing we're looking at is basically our sales so far this year. Like, what's the percentage of our gross
Difference,
sales?
yeah.
Has it gone up or down compared to the same time period last year? And so let's see, what order are we in? Oh, I'm first. Okay. Well, I get to lead with bad news, which is that my sales this year are 41.6% down compared to the same time period last year. But I guess I'll just go ahead and throw the caveat in there. If you've listened to all of our Seller Club episodes so far, you've probably heard me talk about this, but this time last year, I was about to move across the country. So I was in mega liquidation mode. And
Trying to
I
sell a
had,
lot, yep.
yes, was just trying to sell everything. I was doing every kind of deal, every kind of sale, pushing my promoted ads really high. So I was selling through a lot of stuff last January. And this year has been more normal because I'm not in the middle of doing that anymore. So it's a little bit sad. It's down a little bit, but it's also like not a crazy pre-moving time. So
Right.
that makes sense to me why I would be seeing this number. But it's interesting because the numbers alone, right, are just numbers, but there is a story behind all of these numbers.
Right.
And it's important for you to know that about your own business too. Like, what is factoring into this number that I'm seeing? So I know for a fact that that is a great deal of why mine are down. But who's next?
Glenn?
So mine's 36.1% down from, but what down?
Oof.
Down.
But you're a YouTube guru. How could it be down? Impossible. So 36.1% down, and last year, well, 2022, me and Ken were like all whatnot mode. 2023, when the year started, I'm full eBay mode because of the kind of products I was getting, which I went into buying a big
Sneaker bulk, right?
lot. So, and my mindset going into it was like, well, none of these shoes are going to touch whatnot. It's going to go on eBay.
Gotcha.
So I got into listing on a regular basis, ready to go for next year, last year, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's why it is down this year. Kenny?
And then on the contrary, the roles in the story have reversed because I'm 152% up compared to last year. Because last year, again, my eBay store was crickets because we went hard on whatnot. And also this year, or I would say in 23, half later part of the year, going through Q4 23, we were building up our eBay store with sneakers that were eligible for authenticity guarantee. So a lot of them were, over $75 up in value or selling price. So we have definitely shifted the focus to eBay, hence why there's that big jump. And I think we could just go into ASP next. My ASP is 18% up. So I think that's one of the numbers that we're tracking. I mean, the higher your ASP, kind of like brings your inventory value higher. At the same time, if you want to make X amount of gross sales, right? Like $10,000 a month at $100, you're definitely touching way less product.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like a luxury to have a higher ASP. That way, there's less product moving, but but that doesn't really directly reflect to I'm making more money because I could be paying up a lot more just
Right.
to have that higher ASP.
It's like none of
So
that actually factors in the net profit. Like
no, yeah. So
these
we're
numbers
not talking
alone don't
that.
tell
Yeah,
you the
yeah.
picture either. Yeah.
That's why it's very important that you know what you're making per transaction. But I think in a grand scheme of things, these numbers that we're gonna be talking about as far as percentage up and down, these are like metrics. So people call it KPIs, key performance indicators,
Mm-hmm.
that we have to pay attention to, because to hit a certain goal, we have to understand these things. So Glenn, we go
Yeah.
up.
Man, this guy's so smart. 25% down on my end, and also compared to last year, I have like so many hats that are on there right now compared to shoes that were on there last year, and
Ah.
ASP is really down because of that. And I'm gonna go into
Yeah.
further detail later on hats and maybe the good and bad on various platforms.
Yeah, we could talk about that in our traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Well,
Anna.
I love this because I'm happy with this one. My ASP is up 21.7% from last year, which again, like that's consistent with what I told you, which is the truth. But, of the story of getting ready to move, I was semi liquidating. So I was selling a lot more stuff, but at lower price. And so now I'm not selling as much stuff, but I'm getting a higher average sale price, which is what I want. Really, what I want is to be like Ken and have higher both. But I'm working on that for this year. Like, I actually set goals around these metrics for how I want my store to perform throughout the whole year. And so those are both metrics that I want to go up. And I'm really happy to see that already the ASP is up. So, hooray. I'll take it.
We will take it. And I think quantity sold is kind of weird on my end, but we'll go. Well, Anna, you still want to just go to the next one then?
Sure.
Your
So,
quantity
yeah.
sold,
So, definitely still in keeping with the whole semi liquidating before moving. My quantity sold is way down, 52% down. So
yeah.
my overall gross sales, like the total dollar amount, is down. My quantity sold is way down, but my ASP is up. So yeah, the actual quantity sold, number of items sold, is 52% less than this period last year.
And we're talking about eBay only right now, so
Right,
Right.
in
correct.
case
Yeah.
people are wondering what's going on, 14.8% down on my end on quantity sold, and that's just kind of weird, I guess, because it's not down too bad
Too much,
quantity
yeah.
wise, but it's because
Yeah.
random golf and baseball season, I guess, were starting to
yeah.
sell, so that kind of helped a little bit during this time.
Yeah, I mean, quantity sold is going to be directly correlated with your sales percentage, right? If there's no drastic change in ASP, then they should be very relevant. Quantity sold for us is 113% up. So I think, talking about this is sales driven, right? This is pretty much the result of what you've fed your store. And also, this is eBay store alone, and we all know that there is, a giant, a bigger picture, I would say, for the whole e-commerce business. I would say we are all in the e-commerce world, not even considering the time we put in for social media and community work and all the other different activities that we're involved in. So this is just kind of like a compartment of our eBay store, that eventually, right, like the goal is to be in green. The goal is to improve over time. And I know for a fact that, all these down numbers is not gonna stay down, because obviously now we realize this, we're gonna pick it up one way or another. It might be on our eBay store, or we're gonna go into like the whole whatnot story, or shifting different inventories or focus. So Glenn, before we go into traffic, let's talk about like what has shifted, right? We're talking about starting this year, Q1. Um, what's kind of like your overall general feel and the general strategy that you have taken on based on the variety of um, inventory that you've gotten? Obviously, eBay's gonna kind of like suffer because of the focus that you're putting on and whatnot. How has that played out?
Well, I think, how you're saying that, like, they're not going to stay down as far as the numbers go. I honestly think mine might stay down just
Or
because
go lower?
last year was a huge year
Or
on the
go
eBay
lower.
side. Like, I had so
Yeah.
many great
Oh yeah,
shoes
you
and
were doing record numbers last year.
big time. It's like the most
Wow.
inventory I've ever had. Um, and yeah, it's just crazy daily sales. Really good on that side of it. But kind of like what me and Ken have talked about this different times too, is like when you buy in bulk, a lot of your best stuff is going to be gone first. And
Yeah.
so that stuff
Sells
really
fast.
sold easily, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was consistent and everything. And then things started to kind of slow down more and more once you start getting into the less popular shoes or different sizing that's not the best, or even items that are just harder to find on the platform. And so as time went on too, I was already buying hats, but I got better deals on hats later on at the end of the year last year. And in the beginning of the year last year, I had bulk deals on shoes. So, I mean, I'm in this kind of like sporting goods category where I'm selling like jerseys and sportswear, and hats and shoes kind of go along with it. But now it's like the buy cost on hats have gone even lower. I've been finding even better deals now. But I'm also noticing the trends in the market and really having low ASP and going through the hats. I just don't even feel like they're worth it on the eBay side, hat wise, unless the ASP is really there. So hats brought down my ASP from shoes. And that was like clearly noticeable. And you also start to wonder, if I'm selling a hat at $39, okay, but then, some of the other ones selling at 25, 28, plus buy cost, plus if you're promoted listings, then if it gets returned, it's like, is all
Yeah.
this really worth it for
Right.
a low ASP item?
Right.
So my focus, I think, this year between Whatnot and eBay is eBay has to be special items that I feel like people are looking for, things that I'm going to be in the first page on, things that will definitely get, the views and people are wanting the item. When it comes to hats, you type in Yankees hat, how many results are going to come out?
Yeah.
I feel like I have to promote them high in order to be seen. And if I'm promoting high and they're not even really selling that high to begin
Right.
with,
Right.
you're kind of it's just a weird situation to go through and ship off one item at a time. I think this year, I think on eBay, I've sold 7 hats out of the 18 days that we're in. And then on Tuesday, I sold like 110 snapbacks in an hour. So it's just like a totally different ball
Yeah.
game
Right.
there.
So at this point, I think one of the things that I want to point out and cut you off there, it's really like determining the value of the movement, right? Like how much money I'm making if I move, right? So like if I move to ship a hat and I have to box it, and let's just say, how much would you say your average profit on eBay would be on a lower end hat, on the $25 hat?
Probably like a good like 13.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say at 13 bucks,
bucks.
right? And it's not moving. Like you said, like it only sold for 7 times. Let's say it sold for 10 times this year, right?
Yeah.
Compared to if you sold 100 in 1 hour, then it just makes more sense that even if you made less per
Yeah.
item, but because you have the volume on your side and you have the potential to make more, then technically you actually pocket or profit more at the end of the day, right? Because it's really
Yeah.
numbers, your profit per unit, right? So now I feel like you're in a position where, because you can buy a lot of items, now your focus is how can I sell more units, because you have the opportunity to buy more units at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's a big difference between, also with Whatnot, we have combined shipping. So, like, one guy bought, 12 out of those 110.
Wow.
Another
So
guy
instead
bought
of
8.
boxing 12, right? The
Yeah,
chances
one by
of selling,
one.
chances of selling 12 on eBay. I haven't sold a 12 item pack on eBay.
Oh, yeah.
You know
no.
what I'm saying? But
I
on Whatnot,
have.
it's
See?
there you go.
But not hats, not hats. It was
Yeah.
I've done costume jewelry and vintage refrigerator magnets and matchbooks. All three of those I've sold like 20 or 30 to a person.
Wow.
Before
That's
that.
definitely an
Multiple
average
times.
shopper.
Those sales are
that's-
awesome, but it's
is
very
interesting.
few and far between that happens. And I'm always glad that it's like tiny items that would actually still fit in pretty much the same size package.
True. Not have to
So,
go through
I mean,
a whole...
Let's
Yeah.
segue to talking about traffic and conversion, right? Like now
Yeah.
we're on the comparison of conversion. Anna, go ahead.
I have one more question before we do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just
do
a
it.
burning question for Glenn, because I think it's really cool that we're like, as we go, we're kind of talking about the strategy and the implications of this stuff. So Glenn, like, you're kind of saying, okay, so going forward with eBay, maybe that's more curated, maybe that's more like specific items. But I think it's interesting, like in 2023, eBay has released and improved some significant things about like the storefront experience. And so I wonder that if part of your like focus with those certain types of items going on eBay and being more picky about that, like if you would maybe utilize more of that stuff so that you're like for example, now you can actually promote your store itself and not just your listings within your store. You can do different types of promotions and like a newsletter, and you can kind of add branding and like a video to kind of explain and introduce people to your store. Like you can do all of that stuff on eBay with your actual storefront itself. And so I wonder if like that is something that would help that would make sense to go with that approach you're going to be taking this year. Like, do you think you'd be more inclined to like tinker with some of that stuff since you're going to be more specific, or?
I definitely would, and I think it'll help. Like, you might ask, like, what am I gonna sell on eBay then if I'm gonna be doing that? And a lot of the things that I'm spending a little bit more money on, and I'm really hoping for a better return, I think will go on that. Like a Nike Dunk jacket that I found at Burlington. I paid $59 for it, but
Was
on
that the
eBay,
one with all the shoes all over it?
yeah,
I love that.
I know, it's so cool,
So
and a lot of the
cool.
comps are at 200 to 250.
Yeah.
So, like, that doesn't need to be anywhere near Whatnot. That needs to be on eBay.
Yeah.
Great photos, great
Yeah.
details.
Yeah. And also
And-
great seller protections, great buyer
Exactly.
protections.
Exactly. And then it'll raise up my ASP. And it's an item that is worth being on there.
Yeah,
All the
I like
Panda
that.
Dunks that I've been finding need to go on eBay. eBay is going to push out coupons as well for $100 or more on sneakers. It's
Yeah.
going to get authenticated. I know I can double up after paying $49 if I list them at, 100, 110 or at retail. They'll sell. And it wouldn't be on Whatnot. So I think all the cheaper bulk items that I can continuously get need to go on Whatnot. And then a lot of the higher ASP, items that people are really looking for will really look great and do well, I think, on eBay on that side of it. So that's the way I'm
Cool.
looking at it.
Love it.
All right, sales or traffic.
All right, Ken,
On
we'll
to
go through to
traffic.
traffic now. And now
On to
over to
traffic.
over to traffic with Ken.
Yep.
like a traffic.
Traffic in the sky with Ken.
It's exactly what I was thinking. He's in a helicopter,
What's
obviously.
that from?
Oh, it's just
What's
like a
that from?
news thing to where like,
Just like
yeah,
a
I'm a
news
traffic
report.
guy. Yeah.
Talking about traffic. Okay.
You want to hand it off to you again?
Okay.
And now
so-
over to Ken with traffic. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, Anna and Glenn, traffic's looking pretty bad. I mean, it's pretty backed up.
Traffic jam.
Yeah.
I mean, there is organic traffic and promoted traffic. As much as we don't want to be at the promoted lane, but we have to. to escape all the organic traffic.
Yep.
But from the looks of it, should we just should you just can you guys let me summarize our traffic, organic, and promoted, since
Yes,
it's
please.
Sure.
pretty similar. Um,
Yeah,
and
they
I think
are
we can
similar.
bounce off ideas, right?
Yeah, totally.
So traffic respectively, Anna's organic traffic is 11% compared to 89% promoted. Glenn's traffic is 15% compared to 85% organic. My traffic is 23 to 77. So basically, from the looks of it, averaging it out, between 15 to 25%. Also looking at other people's traffic as well, it's pretty kind of like similar now. Like we've been selling on eBay for a while, and we've really never seen organic versus promoted before. Now it's been like, the new talks. I could confidently say back in the day when we hit 2 million traffic, we're like, like celebrating, popping champagnes, ordering desserts, because, out of that is conversion, right? So
Right.
we'll talk about conversion. But now we're seeing 15 million traffic impression to 30 million. And,
Right.
and this is like, like in a 1, 2, 3 person operation stores. And I was like, how are we able to get this much traffic? And I guess, we can go around and, let's just say and ask the burning question: is promoted traffic or promoting your listing, paying extra, worth it? Anna, is it worth it to
Is
get
it worth it?
let's
Well,
just talk about a million traffic, right? So in your end, you get 890,000 more foot traffic to
right.
your digital foot traffic to your store. Is it worth it?
I think it is, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure all of the reasons why, of course. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
some mystery
Right.
anyway, but like in general. But I think, you know, I don't know. I used to, long ago, of course, here's the thing. My strategy has changed over time, but
Mm-hmm.
also all of the entire body of sellers' strategy and use of promoted listings has also changed over time,
Right.
right? As promoted listings has been around longer. Like there was a
More
long
people.
time where I always just did the minimum. It was like 1
Right.
or 2%, and then there were other times later on, like well after promoted listings was a thing, where I would crank it up to, you know, 20 plus percent. Like when I was, for example, when I was trying to semi liquidate my
Mm-hmm.
inventory, I cranked it way up because it was valuable. I had a ton of margin on all of my items, like
Mm-hmm.
without exception. And so I was like, okay, I really just have to move stuff. And what I noticed is that actually helped a lot. Like it
Mm-hmm.
did create a
Right.
lot more sales. Now, there definitely is a sweet spot. Like, I think through that process, I did actually find the not sweet spot of, wow, I did sell 100 more items this month and I didn't make any more net profit. Like,
Mm.
that all got eaten up,
Right.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
between actually paying to promote and like all of the shipping supplies that I used to ship out those extra 100 items or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, the goal was literally just to move stuff because
Mm-hmm.
because I was not going to have to get like a second truck to move
So
it across the
it's
country.
possible to sell more if you promote more.
Yes, I think that is definitely true. But
Mm-hmm.
the more nuanced question is, are you making more money because you're selling more?
Right.
That's what you
Mm-hmm.
have to know for yourself in your
Yeah.
own situation to know if it's a good decision or not. Like
Mm-hmm.
right now, I think my general like promoted listings rate for most of my store right now is like 10%. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like half of what it was when I was semi liquidating, and you can see from some of the sales numbers we just talked about, like I'm not selling as much stuff. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a direct result of I'm not pushing it so hard with paid promotion because I don't need to anymore. It all has a place and I don't have to move it anywhere. So I'm
Right.
willing to wait and not have such a chunk taken out of my margin. So
Mm-hmm.
what
What
about
about you,
you?
Glenn? Is it worth it?
It is depending on the product and what you're selling. I mean, promoted. I had to promote hats high in order for them to be
Mm-hmm.
seen. I mean, there's just too
Right.
many in a certain team, or well, yeah, pretty
Just
much team.
saturation issues.
Yeah, it just big time saturated. Now if it's like unique item, and there's a couple of other sellers, but they have high watchers and things like that. I probably wouldn't go super high in the promotion. I think it's like a rare item that people are looking for. Then that's a little bit different. So I would probably say it just depends. I know there's like a little outcry out there, like everyone should just stop promoting, and then eBay can't do anything about it. And like Ken said, like, all right, everybody stop promoting, and then I'll promote mine at 2%.
I know,
Yeah.
it's like, that's not gonna work.
I just save more money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's gonna stop doing anything
No.
like that. But I would really
It's
look into how much did you pay for that item? What does the
Yeah.
competition look like? And also,
Yeah.
I think sellers get into this mode to where they think that their item is worth more than what it really is, especially on Poshmark.
Yeah.
Poshmark people think that their used, I don't know, whatever shirt or whatever pants are worth way more. It's not. Like,
Right.
your item isn't rare. And
Yeah.
if it is rare, then that's a totally different story. But if it's easily accessible, and now that me and Ken, we talked about that before too, just like there's so much more product, it seems like more than ever. And that's why our stores have also changed. Like 4 or 5 years ago, you're going to Nike outlets, you're going to Ross, we're going to these stores. Even if you want to add in Goodwill, Savers, doing all of this, you're picking and choosing certain items, and you're listing them, and then you're going out there, you're sourcing again. It was like every product mattered totally differently, because it's like a precious item that you want to keep them going, but that thrill of the hunt is fun, but how many items are you really going to be able to pick up that you want high quality products? And it would take some time, take some effort, several trips. Now it seems like there's way more products that are on sale that I think people can get a hold of, even where new is about the same cost as used, when you're looking at like Savers and Goodwill and stuff, when they're selling joggers at $13.99.
Oh, for
Like,
sure. For sure.
so
I
big
remember, like,
difference.
fairly recently, I did a retail arb experiment, which is going well, by the way, but pretty much I bought a whole bunch of shorts and mostly Nike. There's some Patagonia, some stuff, but they were in like part of a super clearance kind of sale. And, I think like a lot of the Nike shorts I bought were like literally $3 new with tags. And I'm like, you could absolutely not find that at Goodwill. They would be $5 or $6 used.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, that's undeniable. Like, let me make sure I get one of these in every size of my size, just in case they don't sell. And then I have a whole new wardrobe of Nike shorts for $3 a piece, because that's incredible.
Yeah.
But,
Exactly.
I mean, the fact that those kind of deals are available is like, that's so indicative of just how much is out there. Like, how much probably oversaturation there is right now. But, and I've sold a bunch of them so far too, but I feel like obviously when the weather gets warmer, like, and it's not the dead of winter, I'll probably sell more. But
Yeah.
it's still like, you can't say no at that price point,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I,
Kenny?
I think it's definitely worth it. I mean, I look at it as another tool to be able to advertise your product. And I tell everybody this. You know how hard it is to bring traffic to your own website, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we know this for a fact because we've run ads on our videos or our, just different
Like
campaigns.
Google ads and stuff.
Yeah, right. Like just to activate that, and you have to figure out the data, right? I mean, you just like I'll open my store a little bit more. So last year, I spent 3,600 on ads,
Wow.
ad fees. I spent 3,600, but if you think about it, out of my selling cost, it's 7% of my selling cost,
Yeah.
right? So, do you have that much margin that you can give away 7%?
Right.
And if it's a yes, and it brought me 80% more traffic every month, I think it's worth it, because out of that 80%, you know, at a conversion rate of, let's just say 1%, right? That's definitely gonna be more than what you paid
Right.
for the ad fees. You know, let's just talk numbers, right? Like, if the 1 million people came through and I paid fees, 80% of that was promoted people or promoted traffic, right? 800,000 came in. And out of those 800,000, 1% bought. That's, what is that? 80 people? 80 more transactions. No, that's actually 800. 800 more transactions.
Right.
N-
And
now,
what's your
can-
ASP?
Right, and my ASP is 100. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. There you go.
That's 80,000 more sales.
Yeah.
Now, am I willing to give up 3,600 to get $80,000 more in GMV or
I'm
revenue?
going to say yes. I'm going to go with yes.
100% yes. Right? And that's what I'm saying. Like,
100% yes.
if you know your numbers, that's what I'm saying. Like, looking at this now, next year I want to pay more.
Yeah, right?
You know, like, I think that's just a general rule if you understand it that way. Love it or hate it, I you know, those people didn't come to my store if I didn't pay.
Right. But that's the thing. That's the piece of the puzzle that it affects, right? They're coming to your store, but also it's not a replacement for having good products, having good listings,
100%,
having
yep.
good pricing.
Because you still have to convert them
Compelling.
once they're in your store, right?
Right.
If you have a
Yeah, the
crappy store, it
conversion
don't
is your
matter
job.
if you just...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's, I mean, I feel like that's where I understand how some people feel like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it's not like an even playing field. But kind of after the threshold of bringing the traffic, then it is after that still the same playing field of like,
That's true, right.
how are, you know, and also all of those things I just mentioned influence your organic traffic, right?
Yeah.
Like your organic traffic will be higher if you're putting
You have
the
good
best
product.
stuff
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there in the best way. Like, period. That's part of that's what determines, you know, how things show up and where and when and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's definitely not a replacement for
No.
terrible listing,
right.
right? Well, compared to a terrible photo, right? Because it don't matter if you and I, you know, example one has a terrible photo, even if it's promoted higher, they're still gonna click on mine and probably potentially buy mine because mine is clearer. And, you know, it's just a snowball effect because now people are going to be asking you more questions if it's not clear, right? If you have a good
Oh,
standard.
man. Then you have to have good customer service.
Yeah, then Anna fails on
man.
that because
Oh,
Anna
man.
just yells.
Then you have to talk to people.
I have to
Then you have
respond
to
to
talk to potential
customers.
buyers.
I mean, some people
man.
might say, like, why does eBay have to charge for promoted listings? Why do they have to get more from
I mean,
us?
'cause
or
eBay is a business.
sellers? Exactly.
They want to make more
As
money
it turns
too.
out.
eBay is a business. They want to make more money. But also, I want people to think about how many more sellers there are, and how many more sellers have been added to the
So
platform
many.
as
Right.
time has gone on for the last, 3 to 7 years. Sure, you can blame us YouTubers. It's their fault. They've been
All your
showing all of
fault.
that.
Yeah.
But also, this just side hustle in general has been a huge topic with everything that's been
Oh.
going on, even since
Yeah.
2020. You know what I mean? Like, how much extra
Completely.
money? Yeah.
I
can
mean, they
you be
even call it the
making?
gig economy now, right? The
Yeah.
side gig economy, right?
Right,
Exactly.
reselling's just one part of that, but it's a pretty accessible part of that. So a lot of
Yeah.
people are interested in trying it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that also just comes with where we're at right now and having the internet. And I remember back in the day, even with my parents, I was like, I don't remember my parents really having like a big side hustle
No,
or
they're just, like,
hustles.
Chilled and had like leisure activities.
It was.
Yeah,
They had hobbies.
they had hobbies.
I know. That's our toxic trait as a generation is that we have to monetize every hobby that we have. But
That's true.
I don't
You
know how
what?
much that's our fault, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Something random. If I was the best pizza driver there was, or delivery guy at a store or a restaurant, I would hate the economy now because of the DoorDash, the Uber Eats, the all that been decentralized basically, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
imagine all the tips I would have gotten. And then now like wait, Glenn can just come in and pick up the
Grab
order
it
that I
for
used to
me?
get. I was like
Yeah.
I mean that's how I feel about promoted listings. You're right?
Mm.
Like at this point like I could just park next to Glenn's listing and if I have a better price, I could make $1 less and I would get
Sale.
the sale.
Right?
Yeah. Or imagine, I guess, trying to promote your storefront. Ken, having your own physical store.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There's
then
a
you really
reason
know
why-
how tough it is out there in a business.
There's a reason why I'm here in the States doing this business. Because
Yeah.
when I had a storefront, you'd have to print flyers, you'd have to go knock on doors, you'd have to like there's a reason why
Yeah.
Glenn's family business is booming because they print all the souvenirs
the
and all the marketing
advertising
materials.
Yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
necessary.
Yeah, they have to fight even harder. I mean,
What did
it's
you have
true.
to do in that brick and mortar store with your parents' family? What were like the marketing or the ad spend that you guys had to do?
Well, I'm thinking with them. First off, it was already like a business that had been around for multiple years.
established. So
Yeah,
that's
so it was already
established, okay.
established. So that really helped. That there was already like clientele that were already coming in. What really changed it was like promotional items, and my dad brought in, I guess, kind of like the contacts that he knew, but he also had to go business to business and seeing like what kind of promotional needs they might need. And
So he did like the R&D, right? So like
Yeah.
he discovered what was the need. So in a way, that was the expense of the business, right? Like your dad had to go out of his way, probably had to spend X,
Yeah,
Y,
and
and Z.
Be proactive and go
Yeah.
find out. Yeah.
Yeah, and have
Boots on the
everything
ground.
ready. Like if you're gonna show, have your iPad ready on like, here's how you manage the website. Here, if you want to check any promotional items, here's how you do it. Here's what
Yeah.
you have to get, what we can offer, and all of that. So, really getting out there, and when you have kind of like that, I guess like in person, friendly face, what you can offer type of thing, and then word of mouth,
Yeah.
of course, also
Right.
starts to generate too. Then that really helps. A lot of the
I
old
love-
school advertising isn't really
Yeah.
there, I guess, like billboards. I mean, they're still there, but billboards, and my dad, what, they did do TV commercials too, which
Oh, wow.
Really?
yeah.
Were you the
Can
model?
we
Were you
get
the
some
model?
footage of that?
Yeah, we do have footage of that.
Oh
but,
my gosh, please.
and it's kind of funny
Did-
now too, because me and the wife hate commercials. I mean,
Did
like,
you? Were you
everything,
there? Were you
streaming
part of the
services.
commercial?
I was on the first one, and then the two commercials after that, I wasn't there anymore. But
They're like,
I am
don't want-
begging for you to
Dude, we
let us
need to
post
see
this
that. We need that.
in our
Yeah.
story.
okay, all right, we'll find those. We'll
Sally
find those.
Club story on Instagram, please, please, please.
All right, we'll get those ready.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
All right. So next, should we talk about listings on every platform? What other
Yeah,
platforms
I mean-
are we selling on?
Well,
Yeah,
just
let's
just a
let's talk about
reminder.
that.
Yeah, like
ahead,
we just announced last episode our partnership with List Perfectly, and so we're taking the opportunity every episode to kind of check in about our progress and our use of that platform because we're all using it, and these two have been using it for a long time. I'm just starting out. I'm kind of a guinea pig, as you'll see in this next set of numbers, but. Yeah, all the numbers we've been talking about so far have been part of the eBay Seller Hub, eBay dashboard stuff. And so, there's also additional platforms to consider. And so we're just going to give a quick rundown of that so that people kind of understand like where we're coming from and where these other pockets of our businesses lie. So some of
Yeah,
our
for
other
sure.
top platforms, but who wants to start?
Well,
Kenny.
I'll go start, and then huge shout out again, List Perfectly, the official cross listing service of Seller Club. It's definitely something that we've been using. So on eBay, talking about numbers, we have 920 listings currently, and we just got out of Q4. Usually Q1 is our lowest listing count because of the Q4 craziness. So we have 920 listings on eBay. We have 612 listings on Poshmark, and that mirrored to Whatnot and Jamble as well. So 612, whatever, how much listings we have on Poshmark is mirrored on Jamble and Whatnot Marketplace. And then also, surprisingly, we have 123 listings on Mercari because it is like, I would say it is the unwanted child currently. So that's what
Ouch.
we have right now.
Okay, question. So I'm sure the answer to this is yes, but you used List Perfectly to cross list to both of those from eBay, right? Is that how you do it?
Correct. So we cross
Okay.
list from eBay to Poshmark and Mercari.
And are all, like, for example, all the ones that are on Poshmark or Mercari also on eBay, or are there certain ones that are
Correct.
only on
Yes.
certain
Yes.
ones?
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't list directly to any other platforms. So to say none of these listings would exist without List Perfectly, because that's the only way that we see fit for our time as far as
Yeah.
getting things
Like, it's so
cross-listed.
efficient to,
Yeah,
to
because
do it
there's
that
no
way.
way,
Wouldn't it be
no way.
otherwise? Yeah.
Yep. Glenn, you're next.
eBay 892 items. I think the highest I ever got to was like 1,700 listings, I think.
Wow. That's a
And
lot.
which is nowhere near Anna's. I don't know how you're doing this. I don't even
I'm just biting my tongue over
I
here.
know. So cross
Cute.
listed to Mercari. I have 1,500, a little bit over 1,500 items on Mercari, and a lot of those have to do with hats in different sizes. And even with eBay, I have 892 listings. I have more quantity wise per listing.
That's what I was
depending
going to
on-
ask. Like, what's
Yeah.
your actual
Yeah.
number of items listed? Do you know?
Yeah.
Versus listings? Because mine is pretty significantly different too.
Yeah, it's totally.
Oh
well,
yeah,
that's the thing
the
that.
quantity.
Yeah, the quantity is what changes
Multiple
it up on the
quantity.
eBay side. And even on Mercari, I have older listings too that I really want to just take off and refresh them. It's kind of weird in Mercari, like items, since there is no promoted, or maybe there is something you could do to slightly promote something, but for the most part there isn't. They just kind of get like, well, you can promote it to people that like your item and things like that. But a lot of old items just get kind of like thrown into the abyss, and you don't really see them anymore. So you kind of have to continually refresh and even come up with like new listings, which is really easy with List Perfectly. And honestly,
is it
I agree. But
Is it because Mercari don't have quantity, right?
yeah, there's no quantity on
Oh,
Mercari.
really?
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why there's more. Yeah,
Oh.
I was gonna say like it has to be that they don't have quantity.
Yeah.
So once
Yeah,
it
there's no
sells,
quantity. That's the
Yeah.
only bad thing about Mercari though, is like when it does sell, you have to relist it, especially if you have like 10 of that one hat.
yeah,
You're like,
So it does throw things off there. And also I agree with Ken, without List Perfectly I wouldn't even be on Mercari, because there's no way I would be listing one by one or individually with my phone on any of that. It just wouldn't happen. Poshmark, I have 81 listings, and a lot of that was cross listed from Mercari, or no, eBay into Poshmark, but
yeah.
I just didn't. I mean, that was when I had a little bit more time to kind of mess with it. I did get 5 sales from Poshmark on hats, and it's there. I think that potential is there, but Whatnot I would still prefer way over Poshmark on what.
Yeah, and
I'm
also
trying to
too, like to
move.
point out, like you probably sold 20,000 items and whatnot already.
Probably I would. I
Yeah,
would
it's about
think.
right. I think it was the last time I checked, you were up there. So
wow.
so that's like a listing that you can't really count.
So that's where I'm at. What about Anna? Where are you at?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm laughing that I have so many more listings than you guys, because I'm sure you both make more money than me. So I'm just like, yay, me and my 10,000 listings. But I do, in fact, still have just over 10,000 listings on eBay. it's 10,030 at this moment in time. And it actually does account for a little over 11,000 items, though, because of a handful of multiple quantity listings and stuff like that. So that is where it's currently sitting. And I have actually cross-listed my first 100 items to Poshmark, and one of them already sold from eBay, though, so it's not on Poshmark. So now I have 99 on Poshmark. I need to find another one so I can keep it at like 100.
Oh, okay.
Because I just very recently did that, and so I'm sort of experimenting with, you know, how to engage on that platform and stuff. And I definitely want to take some listings from eBay and sprinkle them into some other platforms and try it out. But I think I mentioned this on the last episode as well, but I'm really excited to try different platforms. Like List Perfectly has a bunch of different platforms you can try. And so I'm going to try, you know, all of them that make sense for the type of stuff that I sell, but probably in sets of like 50 or 100 items at first, just to like test the waters for each one and see how it goes. So right now it's eBay and a little bit of Poshmark, and more to come, and I will definitely keep everybody posted on that. And also, just throwing this out there, we're hearing through the pipeline there's going to be some really interesting updates to List Perfectly's Pro Plus plan that will have some really cool new features and stuff. So we'll also let you guys know about that when we find out the details. But I'm excited to see, in the name of efficiency, like you guys are saying, you know, without that service, you wouldn't have been on any of these other platforms. So I'm really curious to see, you know, they've already got a good thing going, but as they continue to update things, like how much more efficient it might get, because we love efficiency. Let's be real. That's a very high value around here, and probably for almost every seller that we know. So
yeah, I think it's really one of the fastest way to be able to maximize your inventory. You know, like it doesn't really incur more capitalization to be able to make more money potentially by giving your item a chance to sell with a different set of buyers. Because I think that's one of the things that we have to understand, that eBay has a different buyer, Mercari has a different buyer. Kind of like same as, you know, personally knowing Glenn, he loves buying jerseys and hats previously from Mercari. I love buying stuff on Poshmark. You know, like just sending offers, just unique items. So I think those are, you know, like just on a personal buying experience, we are missing that certain buyer if you're not.
I bet you can't guess where I love to buy stuff.
Where? eBay. The only platform you're on. You probably don't even have an account. Before hopping in cross listing, you probably don't even have an account on any other platform, or you probably don't even know about the platform.
Well, I knew about them. I actually did have an Etsy account already. Okay. I had thought years ago, because I used to sell handmade stuff on Etsy like a long time ago. I would make stuff out of pieces of pianos, like piano guts, keys and different like action hammers and stuff. Really nerdy, really fun. But, you know, that was years and years ago that I really did that in earnest. And it was great, and it was pretty successful. But so I was familiar with Etsy already. And when I started really getting into vintage stuff, I was like, oh, there's like a market for that on Etsy too. Maybe eventually I will put some stuff on Etsy. That was definitely before I knew that there was any, or maybe before there was any kind of cross-listing software available. And I just never got around to it because I kept pumping stuff into eBay and just kept my focus there. So I definitely had an idea about it, but I also would never have even tried if it wasn't really pretty easy to do and pretty not time consuming. Because, you know, we all have limited hours and focus and all of those kind of resources. So it's like you have to put it where it's going to count and make the biggest impact. And, you know, we've all built successful businesses on doing stuff that works. So we don't like to spend too much time on stuff that ultimately isn't going to work for us, right? Like we got to give it a try, but we don't know. So anyway, I love the efficiency factor with cross-listing, and I really wish that actually I had known or like had been interested in doing that like a year before I moved, because it would have been awesome. I'm sure it would have helped me move a lot more stuff out of my store before that point in time, but you know, I didn't really pay any attention to it until after that anyway. So now it's going to be interesting to see how that changes and shapes my numbers for 2024. I'm kind of starting cleanly at the beginning of the year with it. And it'll be interesting to check back on this, at the end of the year or next January and see what an impact it's made. So far, the impact is 100 listings on another platform, and that's all. But
there we go.
There you go.
A lot more to go, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we're pretty much done, right?
Mm-hmm.
For this one, talking about traffic and sales and going through the numbers.
Next week, we'll do the weather report instead of the traffic report.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Right now, weather is kind of crazy, so maybe we should.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It's been better. It's not sub-freezing temperatures. So
yeah.
We finally got to 32 today. So I think that's pretty good. So
we got to like
what's
39 or something.
Oh, 39. There you go. What about you?
I was
Glenn?
like, it's practically t-shirt weather. Are you kidding?
Yesterday we were at 65. Today we're at 69.
Oh.
So we're ready for summer. We're ready for that spring.
I mean, it's a great thing that the days are getting longer again already. Like, that is a comfort for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
no, true.
There we have it, guys. I mean, I think this is a really cool challenge, and to actually, look into your numbers and actually, instead of basing it off on feelings, base it on the reality of your numbers. Like, because sometimes we say like, oh, I feel slow. My store feels slow. But if you look at the numbers, it might be better than the same time. Or if it's slower, then you actually can realize like maybe you've made some drastic changes like Anna, or maybe you've made some shifts on market like Glenn, or maybe you're coming back to eBay more like me. So, before you make that assumption, make sure you look at the numbers, because sometimes emotion could be skewed, especially in wintertime. It's like, I feel cold.
Yeah.
And but numbers won't lie, whether it's hot or cold. So there you have it, guys.
They don't feel the temperature.
Exactly. They tell the temperature. The numbers tell the temperature.
Right.
So in your business, your numbers are going to be the temperature. So don't listen to everybody telling that it's slow or not, because your numbers are going to be separate temperature compared to everybody else. So there you have it. That is episode number 14, talking about numbers. Seller Club. See you in the next episode. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye.